Hi, everybody. My name is Margot Freitag. You may remember me from the summits that I do, Plant-Based Transformation and She Thrives. Today's interview is a little bit different. We're not interviewing for a summit, but I wanted to share this really amazing individual with you. He's been on our summits before, and he's got some really exciting information and material for you to read. He's got a new book out. And so I wanted to bring him on today to share a little bit about his journey and what he has for you. So welcome, Chris. This is Chris Wark, everybody.
Hey, Margot. How are you?
Good to see you. Thanks for being here. I'll
Sure.
just let
Happy to
everybody
do it.
know.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to me and let me talk about my new book and
Yeah,
all that
yeah.
good stuff.
Well, I just want to tell our audience a little bit about you and who you are and what you've done. Chris, everyone, is a young adult cancer survivor. He's a best-selling author and a patient advocate. He was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer way back in 2003. He was just 26 years old. And after he had a surgery, he made the decision to go against his doctor's advice. He opted out of chemotherapy and used nutrition and natural therapies to heal. And 6 years later, in 2010, Chris began sharing his story of faith, courage, and determination, and his message of hope that chronic diseases like cancer can be prevented and reversed with a radical transformation of diet and lifestyle. And in that last decade, Chris has become one of the most well-known cancer survivors on the planet. He reaches millions of people per year as a blogger, a podcaster, a speaker, global health coach through social media and his website, chrisbeatcancer.com. And he's the author of the national bestseller, Chris Beat Cancer, a comprehensive plan for healing naturally. It was published by Hay House in 2018. And he's now got a new book, and it's called Beat Cancer Daily, 365 days of inspiration, encouragement, and action steps to survive and thrive. And it was also published by Hay House just this past October 27th. So it's about a week old. And I'm super excited to have you share this with us, Chris.
Thank you, Margot. Yes, the new book, it's a newborn.
Yes, it's a baby. It's a brand new baby. And even though it's a baby, it's already a bestseller on Amazon, I understand.
It's a new little newborn book.
So, Chris, tell us a little bit about your incredible journey of natural healing, just so people who don't know you get this perspective. And, obviously a little bit about the power of plant-based nutrition and that, and some of the other important lifestyle factors that came into play.
Absolutely. Well, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer when I was 26 years old. And spoiler alert, I did not die. I survived and thrived through cancer. Some of you may be thinking, well, this guy looks like he's like 28, like big deal. Like, how is that a story? I'm 43. It will be 17 years in December. And I was a very typical cancer patient in the beginning. And what I mean by that is I had no clue of what cancer was, no clue about treatments. I'd never had anybody close to me go through cancer. So in some ways, I was maybe even atypical because I had no personal experience with the disease at all. And now, I mean, it's like you look around and everybody knows somebody who's gone through cancer, died of cancer, has cancer now. It's pretty crazy how much this disease has accelerated just in the last couple decades. But anyway, I got this diagnosis. I was having abdominal pain, and it went on for the better part of a year. And eventually I had a colonoscopy, and they found a golf ball sized tumor in my large intestine. They rushed me into surgery, and like they do with most patients, and this is really, the way it goes for cancer patients. You get a diagnosis, and then there's rush, urgency. We got to get you into treatment as fast as we can. And patients have no time to think about their life or their health or their future or their disease or anything, right? It's just fear. And when you're in a state of fear and panic, guess what kind of decisions you make? Not very good ones, right? We don't make good decisions when we're fearful and panicked. We make rash, impulsive, irrational decisions. And but that's how the cancer industry thrives. It thrives on fear. And
Well,
so,
I would add that people don't know what to do, and so they put all of their faith into, their doctors who have sort of a narrow scope of how they treat, right?
yes, people don't know what to do. And I certainly did not know what to do. And so I had surgery. They took out a third of my large intestine. The tumor was in that area. It had spread to some lymph nodes. They took those out. And when I woke up, they said, listen, it's worse than we thought. We thought you were stage 2. You're stage 3C. Because it was already spreading, you're going to need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy. So, chemo hadn't really come up until that point. And, that's a whole different scenario. Stage 2, you get surgery, you go home. It's done. But stage 3, you're a full-fledged cancer patient, right? The chemo, the works. And so that was bad news. While I was in the hospital, 2 things happened that started me thinking differently. One was the first meal that they served me after taking out a third of my large intestine. And that meal was a sloppy Joe. And I looked at it and thought, wow, wow, this is the worst food I've ever seen. And they're serving it to sick people, to a cancer patient who just had his section of his guts removed. And so that was a surprise. And then the other thing that happened of note was the day they told me I could go home, my surgeon dropped in to check on me. And I said, hey, is there any food I need to avoid? Because in the back of my mind, I just, I didn't want to go home and eat the wrong thing and like have to get surgery again or something, right? Like hot sauce or I don't know, right? Like what am I allowed to eat certain foods or should I not eat certain foods? And he was like, no, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer. So that was it. That was all the nutritional advice I got from my surgeon. And the hospital food, of course, was the worst cafeteria food one can imagine. The type of food that you imagine you would only get to eat in prison. Mm-hmm. But they're serving that stuff to sick people. So I got home, I'm recovering from surgery, and I'm thinking about my life and my future and how much time do I have left? And I mean, I could see myself as a chemo patient, and it was terrifying, right? It was terrifying to envision myself becoming what I had seen out in the world, right? I'd seen cancer patients, walking in, in a restaurant or walking in the mall or somewhere. And when you see someone in that, in a state where they're late stage cancer, they're emaciated, their skin's yellow, they've got no hair. I mean, they're just weak and feeble and frail, wearing a mask because their immune system is destroyed. That's like, it stays with you. And so even though I didn't know anyone that had been through cancer, I had seen some cancer patients in real life out in the world. And I was like, wow, it just made an impression. I'm like, is that going to be me? So the idea of chemotherapy didn't make sense to me. I mean, the idea of poisoning my way back to health didn't make sense. And I felt very vulnerable. Like in my core, I felt like this is not something I should be doing, right? This can't be good for me. And in my current state, I was like, I don't think I can handle this. So I prayed about it and I just said, God, if there's another way besides chemotherapy, please show me. Just show me. I need help. And I got a book that was written by a guy named George Malkmus, who had healed his colon cancer with nutrition, with a plant-based diet, all raw foods and juicing. And I started reading his book and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is an answer to prayer. This is what I'm looking for. And his approach made so much sense to me. Every bit of it made sense to me, right? To the reason that so many of us are sick with chronic disease is because our diet is killing us. And our lifestyle choices also killing us, and stress also killing us. And those are all things we can change. And I just realized, wait a second, if the way I'm living is killing me, well, maybe if I change the way I'm living, I can help myself survive. I can heal. I can recover. And so I was empowered by this idea that nutrition can promote health and healing. And it was something that I'd never needed to think about in my life. I'd never had health problems. I'd never had food allergies. It was like, I've always been thin. I was a fast food connoisseur, a barbecue connoisseur too, because I live in Memphis, Tennessee. There's barbecue joints everywhere. And I would drive out of my way to these hole in the wall barbecue joints in bad parts of town because they had like the best barbecue in the hood. And so, so the light bulb went off for me, and I got really excited about taking control of my life and my health, changing everything, and helping myself heal, building my body back up, giving my body an abundance of nutrition that it can use. And who knows how it all works, right? I didn't have a scientific degree or medical background, nothing, right? I just was excited. And in my core, it was easy. I think the truth is self-evident. It was easy for me to believe that this was a good thing for me to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to I didn't have to think about it. It was like, I need to do this, right?
Right.
There's no way this is bad. This is going to be good for me. So I believe that God made the earth for us, and that everything we need comes from the earth, right? It's here for us. And the reality is we've gotten so far away from living in harmony with nature, right? We're living in electrified boxes. We're driving automobiles. We're working in factories. We're eating all this man-made artificial food, fake food, fast food, restaurant food, junk food, heavily processed, crap, calorie rich and processed food. Yeah. And, it just doesn't take a very smart person, because I'm not a very smart person, to connect the dots.
Well, I think it's really interesting that, the one organ in your body that everything that you put in your mouth travels through is your colon. And we've got, your physicians telling you that you don't have to worry about what you put in your colon. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, to speak in kindergarten terms, your body is a series of tubes. It's all tubes. All of it, mouth to anus, one long tube. Your blood vessels, long, they're tubes, right? They're tubes. And everything has to flow through your body. All of your pores, tubes, right? Yeah. Everything has to flow. And especially your digestive tract, everything you eat is going through there. And there are certain foods that cause damage and injury to your digestive tract. Yeah. And other foods that pass through your digestive tract can cause damage and injury to your arteries, to your liver, to your kidneys, chemical compounds in food that do this. And so the way to get away from all those things is to go back to nature. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going back to the Garden of Eden. I converted to a raw food diet overnight. Overnight. It wasn't hard. It was easy, right?
That's what I wanted. Yeah, I think people need to hear that it doesn't have to be hard. It's not this complicated, weird thing, right?
No, it doesn't have to be hard. And now, it was January 2004. So the raw food diet was not hip or cool or sexy, right? There was nobody on Instagram showing off their beautiful raw food, creations, right? In the bikini or whatever. The raw food diet was a fringe diet for sick weirdos, right? And I don't mean sick, I mean like physically sick, like I have cancer, you know what I mean? Yeah. Either you have cancer or you're just a really fringe healthy weirdo person.
Yeah.
I'd never even heard of it, until I read this first guy's book. And so but I didn't care. It just made sense. So I did it overnight. Went to Whole Foods, loaded up the cart full of fruits and vegetables. And I figured out quickly that the best way for me to eat a raw food diet other than fresh fruit, which is easy, is to make giant salads, giant bowls full of vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, onions, mushrooms, peppers, cucumbers, sauerkraut, lots of spices like garlic, oregano, cayenne pepper, curry powder, a little olive oil, a little apple cider vinegar, lemon juice. Like I just started putting everything I could think of in this bowl. Okay. And it turned out to be like amazing and super delicious. And that became my default meal every single day for lunch and dinner, giant salad, as many vegetables as I could cram in there. And I bought a juicer. I started juicing. So I was drinking carrot juice and vegetable juice throughout the day, eating giant salads, eating fresh fruit, making fruit smoothies for a snack. And I pretty quickly got this routine dialed in. And I just realized like, I don't have to make a bunch of different recipes or buy a bunch of cookbooks or whatever, because I tried that in the beginning and I just realized, you know what, this has got to be simple and sustainable. And it was so, the giant salad was so delicious that I didn't want to eat anything else. It was just that good. It filled me up. It satisfied me. I had plenty of energy. I felt good. So that was cool. Now, in the meantime, there's a lot of family pressure to do chemotherapy. And I went to see the oncologist, and that meeting did not go well. And he basically told me, if you don't do chemo, you're going to die, and scared me really bad. And I almost did chemo. I made an appointment to get a port put in, had a few weeks until that day was, had arrived. And when the day came, I didn't go. I was just like, he scared me into it, and I said yes to do it. And then, but thank God I had a few weeks to get my wits back and keep, eating giant salads and juicing and reading and researching. And so, yeah, when the time came, I was like, you know what? I can do that later. I don't want to do that right now. I want to live and die on my own terms. And what I want to do right now, and what I feel that I need to do right now, is build my body up. I don't want to tear it down any further.
Chris, when did you start feeling the effects of that? Like, could you tell that you were doing something right?
Yeah. After about a week, I started to feel really good, right? Feel differently.
Yeah.
I had always been congested. My congestion just went away. My energy shot up. I just felt good. And it takes about a week. Usually if a person converts, if they go plant-based, right, overnight, or if they go raw overnight, the first few days, you're going to feel like crap, because your body is there's two things happening. One, withdrawal. So you feel the effects of withdrawal from a diet that's high in sugar, salt, animal protein, and fat, and caffeine, stuff like that. So you're going to feel like crap for a few days. And then also, if you're eating tons of raw fruits and vegetables, the detoxification increases. And so you may also be feeling lousy from the side effects of whatever detox is happening in your body that's not normal. Right. And so yeah, the first few days, if someone is thinking about doing this, expect to feel lousy and know that that's normal. I've heard lots of people say like, oh, I tried to eat raw, but I just didn't feel good.
Well, were you feeling
like
lousy?
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I just 1 or 2 days. Oh, I just didn't feel good. I just can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Oh, you were so close, right? You were so close. The feeling bad is actually a good thing in the beginning, right? You're breaking those addictions and getting over withdrawal and starting to detox. So anyway, it didn't take me long. I was feeling good. And I found a naturopathic doctor. I found an integrative oncologist. I, cobbled together a little support system for myself. Again, there was no social media. There was no Zoom, right? There was no YouTube. This was 2004. People forget. The internet was lame. 2004. Yeah. All you can get on the internet, you could look at pictures and you could read text, right? There was like almost zero video content. If there was video content, it was like 5-second, 10-second video clips.
Right.
So I didn't have a way to connect with other patients or survivors or people that were on the healing journey. I was just alone in the process. And that was tough, but it really didn't matter. I didn't have anything to compare it to. And I just knew I have to survive. I had what I call the beat cancer mindset. And I talk about this in the new book, and in my first book, but the beat cancer mindset really starts with believing you can get well. Because without that foundational belief that you can get well, it's pretty pointless to do anything, right? If you don't believe you can get well, why are you doing treatment? You know what I mean? Why do anything?
Why do anything?
Why juice? Why? There's no point. You know what I mean? If you don't believe you can get well, I mean, just enjoy your life, whatever life you have left, right?
So that brings me, so there must be some other pieces here. So there's the nutrition, there's the mindset, you have to have the right attitude. And I know that there are a few other components that you found really, really important and valuable.
Yeah. So the mindset starts with, I mean, look, the mindset is the beginning.
Yeah.
That's the first piece of the puzzle. Believe you can get well. And then from there, you have to accept total responsibility for your health. You just have to be willing to say, you know what, maybe this is my fault. And if it's my fault, I'm going to take responsibility for it. And I'm going to work to solve this problem that I have, right? Because if you have a problem, doesn't matter who caused it, really, it's now your responsibility, right? It's your problem.
Right.
If it dropped in your lap, it's still your problem, right? So accepting responsibility for your health is huge. Being willing to change everything. So just being willing to let go of all the stuff that you've been holding on to, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like taking massive action, because massive action produces massive results. Minimal action, minimal results. We've conditioned by the pharmaceutical industry to look for the quick fix, right? Because a drug is a quick fix to a problem, except it never doesn't really fix the problem. It just alleviates the symptoms of a problem. But that's what we want. Like, isn't there a pill I can take for my diabetes or whatever, right? So you have to be willing to take massive action. And that means changing everything. And then the last thing, that this is all part of the beat cancer mindset, right? All of these components sort of have to exist together. And the last thing is, and it's not just me, this is what I've seen. I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of cancer patients who've survived against the odds. They all have the same things in common. They all have these things in common. And the last thing is to embrace this new season, right? To enjoy your life, to make a decision, to enjoy the process and not live out the new season of your life in a state of regret and complaining and negativity, right? To practice gratitude and really count your blessings. So yeah, that all has to happen up here. Like before anything goes in here, right? You got to get this up here, right?
Yeah.
So the cancer battle is really a battle that you have to win in your mind before you can win it in your body.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like you're going to win that battle in your mind in one day, but you have to be consciously aware that this is a mental fight, And so now if you are a typical cancer patient and you just want to do what the doctor says, then you're not even, the cancer industry likes to use the battle terms, right? It's the war on cancer. We're going to fight this. You're a warrior, all this kind of stuff. But the reality is, no, you're not. You're not a warrior. You're just showing up for treatment and getting poisoned. Like that's not what warriors do, right? That's not fighting anything, right? Mm-hmm. If anything, you're being attacked, right? And you're passively enduring. That's all you're doing. But if we call a cancer patient a fighter and we use this war terminology and this battle terminology, that will make them they will understand subconsciously that the suffering that they're going to receive from treatment, it makes sense now because they're at war.
I see.
So,
right.
But, So I'm cautious to use the battle and fighter type analogy, with the exception of the fact that your immune system really does fight cancer cells, right? Your immune cells attack and kill cancer cells. So that is a real battle, right? That's happening when you empower your body to heal. You're strengthening your immune system and empowering it to identify and eliminate cancer cells, because that's what it's designed to do. And if a person has tumors, their immune system is not working the way it should. That's the biggest difference between person with tumors, person with no tumors. It's their immune system. It's taken a long time for the cancer industry to acknowledge this, but now immunotherapies are the biggest trend in cancer drugs, because they've finally figured out over 130 years after Dr. William Kelly, sorry, not Dr. William Kelly, the father of immunotherapy, whose name is escaping me, who started this research in 1890, Dr. William Coley, he figured this out in the late 1800s, that the body's immune system was eliminating cancers when patients ran a high fever. So, and then he researched it for decades and had remarkable results and published, there's case studies and monographs of his work and all this wonderful stuff. Dr. William Coley, look him up. So, but the point is, it's all about the immune system. And in order to strengthen your immune system, the way you do that is with your diet and your lifestyle choices and stress, right? Because all those things can either strengthen your immune system or weaken it, right? And it's all about your choices. So this is a message of personal responsibility, but also empowerment. Your choices matter. Your choices can create health tomorrow. Your choices today create your future tomorrow. And so for patients who, and by the way, I don't want anybody to think that they shouldn't do chemo, because I didn't do it. I never tell patients not to do treatment. But as a patient advocate, I'm very critical. I don't pull any punches when it comes to the cancer industry, because they have largely failed. The overall death rate from cancer has only improved about 5% in the last 60, 70 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
5% improvement in the overall death rate across all cancers. Like, that is a failure, right? Failure. Now, on the individual level, there are a few cancers that they've improved the death rate quite a bit. Childhood leukemia, lymphomas, testicular cancer. Like those three, they can, kind of wave the victory flag. They've come up with cocktails of drugs that have increased survival dramatically. Like 90% of those patients live 10 years or more. That's great. But for most of the most common cancers, breast, liver, lung, colon, cervical, ovarian, brain, survival, the death rate hasn't really changed. So that's a bit of a bummer, but it's important for patients to understand this, because you don't want to put your faith, hope, and trust in a system that's failing, right? That's not likely to help you. And I have a free download on my website. It's called 20 Questions for Your Oncologist. And these are the most powerful, most important questions that every patient or caregiver should ask the doctor before you start treatment. Because most patients don't ask the right questions. They ask questions like, am I going to get sick? Am I going to lose my hair? Do I have to take off of work? Stuff like that. But they don't ask, that really, really important question: will this cure my cancer?
Right.
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 A lot of them are, and I don't blame them. Some patients are scared. They don't want to hear the answer.
Right.
Because it might be really scary, but there are questions like that. And there's a number of them that you need to ask if you're a patient. So that's on every page of my website, chrisbeatcancer.com. If you just go to the site and click around, you will see 20 questions for your oncologist, how to get it. Yeah. It's free.
So Chris, tell me this. So, and I think everybody should get that. I mean, it's just an important thing to have. And it's translatable to other conditions and issues too, by the way, I found.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I wanted to ask you.
And you said translatable. It's also been translated.
Well, I meant transferable, but yes.
Transferable, but you reminded me, I should say, it's been translated by my viewers into, I think, I don't know, 7 to 10 different languages too.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. Pretty neat.
That's very cool. Chris, tell me, what did your doctors say when you showed up, you didn't do chemo, and you started to heal? Like, what did they say? What was the reaction?
Well, the first doctor I saw that told me I was insane if I didn't do chemotherapy, he never saw me again,
Okay.
right? Because he lost his privilege
Yeah.
of my business. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let's not make any mistake about the relationship, right? You are a customer.
Yeah.
You're a customer, right? Yes, they call you a patient, but you're a customer. And as a customer, you have the right to decide who you want to work with. And you should get multiple opinions and find a doctor that you love, that is honest with you and supports your decisions, whatever they are. So, and just to jump back, I was saying I never tell anybody not to do chemo, which is
Right.
true. But the thing is, whether you do chemo or radiation surgery, whatever treatments you decide to do that are conventional, my mission is to provide you, patients and their families and caregivers and anybody that's interested in prevention, with information that you can use to help yourself heal at home, right? To help yourself survive against the odds. Because what you do at home, the food you eat, the lifestyle practices you implement, the way you handle stress and reduce stress in your life can make all the difference between survival and death. The biggest difference, in my opinion. The people who survive against the odds do the things that I did and the things that I talk about in this book, in Beat Cancer
Yeah.
Daily. And so this book is
Yeah.
actually it's a companion to my first book, Chris Beat Cancer, but this is a daily reader, a daily devotional where each day it was written to help encourage you, inspire you, motivate you, keep you on track, give you practical advice and tips and information just to stay on the path, right? Because you can't heal it overnight. You didn't get it overnight, and healing takes time, right? It's a
Well,
marathon.
and I think too, Chris, people feel so alone. They don't, and from on a day to day, you don't have somebody there holding your hand, telling you what to think or feel or do or eat or, read. And I think it's just like you called it a companion, and it is. I mean, it's something that's going to support people every single day for an entire year. So,
Yes, that is, I had obviously my first book, I tell my story and I talk, there's an expose on the cancer industry and pharmaceutical medical industry. And then the book kind of goes into the prescriptive things that I did, the specifics of diet and lifestyle therapies. But people read that book and they take notes and highlight, and they take action, they start doing things. And then, but I had this burden to like, I want to continue to like encourage people every day. Cause
right.
it can be a very lonely road, like you said. And we all I need it. We all need daily encouragement. Some days are
Yeah.
easy, right? And some days are just feel really hard. And those are the days we need it the most. So, but anyway, sorry to get off track a little bit, but what was the
No,
question
no.
that you'd asked me? What the doctor said.
Yeah, right, right.
So I said earlier, I found an integrative oncologist, and he ordered blood work every month and CT scans every 6 months. We were keeping a very close eye on things because, you know, obviously I was concerned and he was very concerned too. He knew I wasn't doing chemo, and amazing guy. He's now deceased, but he was in his 70s at that time. And he had actually come back out of retirement because he didn't like being retired. He felt better just working. He had some health challenges of his own, but he just felt physically better when he was working. So he came back out of retirement, and he was practicing integrative medicine. He'd spent an entire career as a surgical oncologist in private practice, doing surgery, administering chemo, and we had just seen it fail, like countless people, right? Countless patients. And so when he came back out of retirement, he was incorporating things like IV vitamin C, Manos, um, and other integrative non-toxic therapies, and was studying Eastern medicine in his 70s, trying to learn from what they were doing in Asia to treat cancer. And it's
Hmm.
just a fantastic man, just a prince of a guy. And so anyway, but he was very concerned, and he wrote a letter to my my naturopathic doctor saying, you know, I'm really concerned about Chris, and, you know, young adult colon cancer is very aggressive, and we, you know, the outlook is very grim. And because, you know, he'd just seen it. He's like, it's coming back. You can cut it out, but it's coming back. And that's the way it is with most cancers, right? Because the tumor is not the problem. It's a problem, but it's not the problem. And if you don't get to the root cause of the problem, you're just going to grow more tumors, right? And so what I was doing was trying to solve the root cause of my disease. I was trying to make my body a place where cancer could not thrive by supplying an abundance of nutrition and empowering and strengthening my immune system, right, to do its job.
Right.
So that doctor, you know, blood work after blood work, scan after scan, he was very cautious, you know, in his approach with me, you know, in his bedside manner, but he began to get more and more excited as, you know, as time went by, as yet another scan came back clear, no disease, blood work's looking better, you know. And so it was just, we just had a wonderful relationship for several years. And then he retired again. And I ended up around the 5-year mark, I was referred to another oncologist, and we did a scan then, and no cancer. So that was when, you know, he told me, he said, man, it looks like you're in the clear. And I was just like, wow, okay, this is great. And, you know, that whole time I wasn't writing a book. I wasn't blogging. I wasn't on social media. I was just working, just living my life. My wife and I had a baby girl a year after I was diagnosed. Hello.
Wow.
And our first daughter. And I was just fully immersed in being a dad and a husband and taking care of myself. And I wasn't thinking about sharing my story at all. But, and by the way, I didn't really want any public attention, because what if I died? You know, I didn't want to go public and say, look what I'm doing. I'm raw foods and juicing instead of chemo. Right. And then if I died, I just look like a big fool, right, to the world.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So anyway, but then people started asking me, like, what did you do? How's your health? Do you still have cancer? No, I don't, you know, I'm good. I'm great. Like, let me tell you what I did. And I would tell them, and they'd be like, what? That's crazy. I can't believe that. So anyway, I just kind of became clear to me that I should probably share my story in some way. I started the Chris Beat Cancer blog in 2010. Just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of that blog. Yeah. And it was just, I didn't know what I was doing, but I just felt like, man, I've learned a lot in the last 6.5 years and about nutrition, and I should tell my story and just start writing articles about the things that I've learned and what I believe to be true about health and healing and cancer and the cancer industry. So I started, and it grew pretty fast, because little did I know there was a ton of people on Google and, you know, looking for that information. And there weren't, aside from Chris Carr, there really weren't any publicly known alternative or holistic cancer survivors. And so I happened to be kind of the second guy. You know, I like to describe myself as the second most famous cancer survivor named Chris.
Well, not only are you,
which she and I laugh about.
Yeah, she's great. Not only are you obviously sharing such valuable information, but you're such an inspiration for people. People want to know that it works. They want to know that there's hope. And so you represent that, right? You represent that hope. And then you went a step further, and then you provided this amazing book. And now you have this other book, this
Beat Cancer Daily.
So let's talk about this book, because I think it's a gem.
Thank you. And, I'd love to talk more about it. So I kind of mentioned earlier that, it's 365 days. So it's one page per day. And it's, you know, the title's a little deceptive, because I really didn't write it just for cancer patients. And many of the days and entries are not about cancer. You're right. They're not talking about cancer. It really is, you know, all of the inspiration and encouragement and wisdom and lessons that I've learned in the last 17 years, right? Going through the cancer experience, I put into this book. Everything that I think is valuable to help someone stay on the healthy path, right? To stay motivated, to stay inspired and encouraged. So if you don't have cancer, I think you will love this book. If you have cancer, of course, I think you'll love it. But, there's personal stories in there and just all kinds of really just wonderful things that I've learned that I just couldn't, just like want to share,
Yeah.
So here it is. It's here.
Awesome. So we know who it's for. It's for everybody. It's for the cancer thriver, survivor, somebody who's in it right now, but it's also for every one of us who needs a little support and inspiration on a daily basis.
Just if you need a little nudge,
tell us what's yeah.
And let me say this.
How
the idea, Beat Cancer Daily, look, 1 out of every 2 men and 1 out of every 3 women are predicted to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. That's a lot of people. Half of men, a third of women. Okay. Yeah. And the women, the third of women number is actually getting larger. So it's getting to be, it's sometime soon, they're going to be saying half of women. Okay.
Yeah.
So beating cancer is also preventing it.
Right on.
You know what I mean? So like Beat Cancer Daily, these are diet and lifestyle and mind, mental, emotional, and spiritual practices to help you survive and thrive through cancer, but also to help you stay on the healthy path so that you don't have to deal with it. Because believe me, you don't want to. You don't want to deal with it. And so some of the themes that I talk about that are recurring in the book is how to step out in faith, right? How to step out of your comfort zone, how to be courageous, how to simplify your life, how to make wise decisions, how to get away from toxic relationships, how to forgive. Forgiveness is a big theme throughout the book. It's, earlier when I talked about the main causes of cancer being diet, lifestyle, environment, and stress. Well, one of the biggest stress producers, and by the way, stress suppresses your immune system. Mm-hmm. So that's the connection, right? Mm-hmm. Anything that suppresses your immune system is going to make you vulnerable to disease. Mm-hmm. And so stress is kind of it's kind of a nebulous word, but to put a fine point on stress, it's just all negative emotion produces stress, anger, bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness, right? And those are emotions that are rooted in the past. Also guilt and shame, emotions rooted in the past. So you're living in the past if you are entertaining those emotions, right? You're either mad, angry, and bitter at other people, or you're guilty and ashamed of your own mistakes. Living in the past. Fear, worry, and anxiety, you're living in the future. And those are negative emotions. They produce stress in your mind, heart, and body, just like the ones in the past. And then in the negative emotions in the present are envy and jealousy, right? Because that's you comparing yourself with others, right? Which feed insecurity and unhappiness and dissatisfaction. And so the first sort of step in this process is to identify the areas in your life where you're really letting negative emotions rule your thoughts.
Right.
And so taking every thought captive, getting, that now they call it mindfulness, right? Being aware of your thoughts. Am I thinking negatively? Am I being critical and judgmental, right? Am I constantly playing this self-defeating inner talk, right? Am I constantly beating myself up, right? Or thinking and wishing that harm would come to people who've hurt me. So you got to catch yourself in those moments and be like, wait a second. Okay, I'm going down this road of negative thinking. I can stop that. I can stop it, and I can choose to think positively. I can forgive the people who've hurt me, and forgiveness is so powerful. So
Yeah.
This is, I mean, I'm talking about this stuff throughout the book. It's just recurring themes that just come up. And I feel like they're just going to come up in your life at the right moment where you need to hear it. You know, I just think that's how
Yeah.
it works. But forgiving the people who've hurt you, it releases you from the pain
Yeah.
that they have caused you. Because when people hurt us, they cause us pain. But when we hold on to resentment and bitterness, we trap ourselves. We actually lock ourselves in a prison of pain.
Yeah.
And the only way to get out, you can reach around and unlock the door, right? And let yourself out
Yeah.
with forgiveness.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. And forgiving
Love
yourself,
that. Yeah.
forgiving others. So, and let me just say, I can't overstate this, by the way, because you can eat the healthiest diet in the world, take all the supplements, do all the weird therapies and all the conventional therapies and do it all. But if you don't forgive, you may not get well. I'm just going to say it. You probably won't. I've seen it. I've seen people
Yeah.
do all the right stuff but they're so bitter and angry and fearful and worried. And then they're just in this toxic state
Right.
emotionally. And until if you can't break that cycle, you're just going to be in a perpetual vulnerable state, right? Because all that stress, all that negative emotion suppresses your physical immunity.
Yeah. Those are such critical pieces and really, really wise message there, Chris. I think it's so important. Forgiveness, I always love that saying, forgiveness is freedom, forgiveness frees the forgiver. And then I remember you saying once when we did an interview, you said, I never forgot it. Forgiveness or non-forgiveness or unforgiveness is like drinking poison and thinking it's going to kill somebody else.
That's right.
Wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. I thought
right.
that was really profound. And I love this
you think
idea
about,
of,
well, just the word bitterness, right?
oh, yeah.
Bitterness,
It's, yeah.
And we've met people in life that usually they're older, right? That are just so sour and bitter.
Yeah.
They weren't born that way. Babies aren't coming out bitter. They're not coming out critical and judgmental. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a bad habit. It's a bad pattern of thought that we, adopt at some point in our life and then develop over time, and it just becomes ingrained. But you can break that. Like it's just a bad habit you have to break. But
right. Well, there's learning involved. I mean,
yes.
there's learning because people, I mean, I know, like you just said, really, elderly people who are just so angry and who wants to live the end of their life that way, right?
You don't. And the awareness thing is really what has to happen first. And that's why I love talking about this. That's why I've written the books. It's like, you have to realize you have a problem, right? It's like AA. You have to realize you have a problem and admit it. Like, okay, this is what I did. I'm not telling anyone to do anything that I have not done, but you have to be like, okay, I have a problem. I'm negative. I'm critical. I'm cynical. I'm judgmental. I'm holding on to, I've got a chip on my shoulder. I'm envious and jealous. And by the way, I'm an only child, which only children are a lot of times very competitive, right? Like a firstborn type personality. Mm-hmm. And just for whatever reason, but yeah. I mean, I used to be very competitive and envious and jealous of anybody who I perceived as more than me or superior to me in some way. It's very, very unhealthy, toxic stuff. And it just feeds it. And I was insecure and prideful, which seems like they don't coexist, but pride and insecurity are actually always, they always coexist.
Right.
Because pride is sort of like a coping mechanism for insecurity.
Right.
And so I was a swirling mess. Okay. I just want everybody to be very clear about this. I was a mess. And so I had to become aware that, man, I'm a mess. I need to take a step back, examine my thoughts and my emotional life, and make some decisions to change, right? To take action to change the way I'm thinking and living and all that stuff.
Do you think this book is about that? Do you think this book is like, is this how people should use it? Self-reflection, personal development.
Oh, absolutely.
Learning to love yourself and forgive yourself. And
that is what it's about. I mean,
I love
Almost
it.
every day there are different challenges, not every day, but throughout the book, there were different challenges, daily challenges that are, yeah, encourage you, the reader to really, yes, do some self-examination and reflection, right? To,
Hmm.
to, does this apply to you? And if it does, like, let's, let's start to think differently. Let's start to act differently. And there's practical things like, hey, you need to exercise, you know?
Yeah, so it covers the gamut. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Chris, that's awesome. It's such a gift to so many people who really
Thank
need
you,
it.
Margot.
So where can people find it?
Beat Cancer Daily is available through any bookstore. If they don't have it in
Okay,
stock, they can definitely order it, and it's on Amazon. All the
awesome.
major bookstores have it. BarnesandNoble.com and pretty much anywhere. It's pretty easy to find,
Okay.
and obviously Amazon's the easiest.
Yeah, and I noticed you did mention that, bookstores are struggling right now, and with COVID and a lot of businesses are struggling, but bookstores are definitely struggling. It might
They
be a good
are.
idea to go down to your local bookstore and pick one up there if you can.
Yeah, that'd be a
Yeah.
really special thing if you want to get the book and you're willing to take a little extra step, to call your local bookstore and say, hey, do you have Beat Cancer Daily? Or my first book, Chris Beat Cancer. And if they don't have it, you can order it over the phone. I know they would really appreciate your business because bookstores, I love bookstores, and they've had a rough go ever since, I'd say the last 5 to 10 years, bookstores have been closing
Yeah.
frequently because Amazon is taking over. And as much as I like Amazon, I don't want all the bookstores to go out of business. That's just sad.
No. Yeah, that is sad.
So we need to support them, support
I
your local
love that
bookstore.
idea. Awesome. Chris, thanks so much. Listen, do you have any final words that you'd like to share with the audience?
Final words. Well, I think it's really important to understand that if you have cancer or any chronic disease, you're not a victim, right? You're not a victim of disease. Every disease has a cause. And just because you don't know the cause doesn't mean you're a victim of it. And I've interviewed people who've healed all types and stages of cancer, lupus, type 2 diabetes, people thriving with type 1 diabetes, autoimmune disease, multiple sclerosis, all kinds of chronic diseases. And we all had the same approach, basically, and that is radical life change,
Yeah,
plant-based diet, tons of fruits and vegetables. And by the way, I'm not still a raw foodist. So if anybody's worried that they have to be a raw foodist to be healthy, that's not true. You don't. But
right.
raw vegetables are wonderful. So make sure you eat plenty of those along with your cooked veggies. Um, but the big message here is that you're not a victim of disease. Your choices matter, right? You have the power to affect your future. And so your decisions today will create your life tomorrow. And if
Yeah.
you, one of the concepts, there's a page in the book, this would be, I guess would be good to close with, but there's a page in the book where I talk about living for tomorrow. The popular sort of idea is to live for today, right? Today,
Yeah,
live it up today, squeeze the most out of today, get the maximum pleasure today, and don't worry about what tomorrow's consequences are, right? Let's go clubbing, right? Stay up all night and party and
yeah,
right? That's like every pop song, right?
yeah,
But the reality is, if you live for today every day, you are going to sacrifice your tomorrows,
right.
right? Like if you go out and get super drunk tonight, guess what? Tomorrow's going to suck.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So the idea is live for tomorrow. And what that means is you don't have to deprive yourself. It doesn't mean you should be miserable today, right? Practice
hmm,
gratitude, be joyful, embrace your life today because the present is the most important, right? But make decisions today that are likely to produce a better tomorrow. So, what do I mean? I eat healthy today because I want to be healthy tomorrow,
yeah,
right? I exercise today because I want to be fit and strong tomorrow. I give love today and serve because I want to receive love tomorrow.
right.
And so to use a farming analogy, right? We're sowing seeds, right? You're sowing seeds into the ground, and you put a seed in the ground, you don't get a harvest tomorrow. It takes time to harvest, but the harvest is coming. And we can either sow seeds of health or seeds of disease. So I want to encourage everyone to sow seeds of love and health.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Margot.
See you soon.
See ya.